All right, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Toon podcast. My name is Craig. I am joined by Jack down in Brisbane. How are you doing, mate?
Good. I had a good day yesterday. I was at a wedding on a boat cruise, so that was a rare day out for me. So yeah, it was good. So I'm in recovery from that a little bit, but yeah, looking forward to talking about Newcastle a little bit. It's been a little while.
Enjoying this Queensland winter sun. It's glorious at the minute. It's absolutely perfect.
It's great,
But
isn't
now,
it?
yeah, we're going to dive straight into things regarding all things Newcastle United. But before you do, just a quick heads up. We have a very special guest lined up for next week in the name of George Culkin. He's a guest we've been trying to get on for a while. He's finally said yes. So keep an eye on that one. If you don't subscribe to the channel already, please do so and hit that notification bell and you'll be notified the moment that video goes live. That should be out towards maybe the back end of next week or earlier if we can. But yeah, keep an eye on that. That should be absolutely fantastic. You're jumping on that one, I believe, Jack?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. George is great. I've met him a couple of times at various things. He's just a really good guy. He's got really good connections, obviously, with Newcastle. He's been doing great stuff with the Athletic. He's also got the Bobby Robson Foundation link, so he's a patron of that charity. And obviously, I'm doing my 10.5 marathons this year, so which I'm over halfway through now. So yeah, it'll be really good to talk to George, and he's a great guy. So very much looking forward to that on Thursday.
Yeah, so again, if you don't already, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, keep an eye out for that one. But we're going to dive straight into Jack, and we're going to talk about the tour of Japan first, which is not really a tour because, to be honest, there's only really two games. We won one, lost one. We won the game against Uara Red Diamonds 4-1, and we lost against the Yokohama F Marinos 2-0, which was at the late hours of last night for us. I watched the majority of the game. You were busy getting pissed on a boat at the time. But what have you made of this tour in Japan? Do you think it's more of a cash grab exercise like it was down in Melbourne at the end of the season? Or do you think there's more as a proper professional pre-season training camp and getting everyone back on Tyneside fully ready to fit for the opening game of the season?
I think this one's a bit more of a serious, like the games are obviously a bit more important as far as friendlies go. Eddie and the team are working on getting ready for that Southampton game in 2 weeks. So it's been really good for the players to get the fitness, good for the bonding, I guess, as well. These things, this is just what's going to happen now. We're going to be doing this regularly. I think it'll be America quite a lot. It might be Japan or other areas. Hopefully it might be Australia again at some point. But I was listening to a podcast from the Athletic that was talking about the money that Man United and Man City make from these tours. They make $15 to $20 million, US dollars. So it's actually not insignificant amount of money. We won't be making that much, but it's all about growing the brand as well.
Definitely.
There's quite a few fans in Japan, and there's some really good videos doing the rounds of the away end from last night, which looked absolutely bouncing. So good on them, like I think they seem to have done well with the commercial side as well. They obviously released the third kit when they were there, and they seem to have been getting some more merchandise out, which they didn't really do in Australia. So yeah, it's just part of it now. As far as preseason goes, the first game was pretty good. I think it was really entertaining actually to watch, which is unusual for friendlies. I didn't watch yesterday's, but yeah, I think it will probably be regarded as generally a success. And now they can get back, have the friendlies next week, and then build up for that Southampton game. So yeah, I think they'll be reasonably pleased with what they've done.
Are you bothered about the tuna loss at all, or is it more about minutes in the legs for the lads?
That doesn't matter. Like friendly results really don't matter. Like it's nice to win, it's nice to score goals, but it really it's completely insignificant the result of the matches. It's all about getting fitness, avoiding injuries, working on some stuff, trialing some stuff probably. Ideally, you'd be seeing some new players. I know Lloyd Kelly played yesterday. We haven't managed to get anyone else in yet, but yeah, I think it's more about fitness and bonding and working on patterns and things than anything else. So the result doesn't matter.
Has there anybody this pre-season who stood out for you so far, and anybody who hasn't?
It's been nice to see people like Jamie Miley. He's obviously had some minutes. I know that young players quite often do get minutes in pre-season, and then it doesn't mean you're going to see them in the first team picture. Jamie Miley, thought we might have seen him a bit last year as well with all that injury crisis, but he wasn't in the first team picture. but he's looked pretty tidy when he's been on.
Mm-hmm.
Murphy's obviously been scoring a lot of goals, which is good. I don't think we've had a real standout performer like we did with Elliot Anderson last summer. He was brilliant in the last pre-season, and then he got injured not long after the season started, unfortunately. But there hasn't really been any major standouts, I don't think. It's just like been about fitness and getting minutes. Lewis Hall's looked pretty good as well. He's probably nailing down that left back position, and he's been making a good impression. A couple of the youngsters, Alfie Harrison and Sanusi, have had some nice touches as well. So, but again, like I'm not sure how close they are to the first team. We'll just have to wait and see. But it's been really good to see Joe Linton get back and get some game time, and that's been a big bonus. So we'll see how things go in a couple of weeks. But it's been generally okay, I think, and we've got those 2 games next week as well to look forward to.
Yeah, the Salah weekend and the opening of the Stack sponsored by Salah. That opens, I think, the 8th. So that's middle of next week. So it should be good, ready to flow, ready for the weekend of football. But I just want to now touch on Miggy. Now, this is something that Marc brought up during the conversation during the match last night. He just basically said, has Miggy down tools? And we all know we tried to flog him in January and that didn't happen. Whether it's because he didn't want to uproot his family, which is absolutely fair enough. Nobody's going to say against that whatsoever. But do you think that has now just affected him mentally, where the point where he's saying, the club don't want me. Yes, they are paying me probably tens of thousands of pounds a week. But if they don't want me, why should I put in any effort when I'm going to get no reward?
I don't think that's really what Miggy's like. For everything we know about Miggy, that doesn't seem like something he would do. Like, he doesn't seem the kind who's going to go sulking or kicking up a fuss about things. He's human being, so if he doesn't feel valued and wanted, then maybe he will feel a bit disappointed and a bit let down. But Eddie Howe was very clear with his comments last week that Miggy, he's an important player, he's got a part to play, etc. All the stuff that you would expect him to say, even if we are going to sell him. Like he said this about Alan St. Maximin just before he left as well. So, and like people were saying about that, why is he defending him? And he needs to be more ruthless and stuff. But anybody who's ever managed a team or managed individuals, like what good's it going to do to come out slagging for the manager to come out and criticize a player publicly? Like it's just not going to happen. It's not good management, and it's just going to unsettle him. And he seems to be a popular player, so it could unsettle his teammates as well. If the players have not got trust that the manager's got their back. So I think that was just that was never gonna. He's never going to go out and publicly criticize players, and nor should he. So,
no.
But I think with Miggy, I'm just worried that him and Longstaff particularly are past the point of no return with the social media supporters. They get absolutely rinsed and lambasted whenever they do anything that's slightly negative or not good. And then when they do good things, that it doesn't get highlighted. People just want them gone, I think. And unfortunately, it's probably more of a social media thing than an in the ground supporter thing. But I don't know. Like Longstaff went on and put a post up about the tour, and you just got a load of people commenting it, telling them to leave and saying he's shit and stuff like that. So for me, that's just a completely alien way of supporting your football team to really criticize players. You can think that we need to sell them. That's fine. There's very good arguments for selling these players, but you need to have buyers to come in and bid for them first. And if that doesn't happen, they're going to be here. What good's it going to do to be criticizing them all the time? Let's just get behind them. Hopefully, we won't be seeing them playing the team too much. But they both contributed last season. They both contributed a lot the season before. So they're fine as squad players, but I worry about the social media reaction towards them. But like I said, social media is just a sort of small snapshot of the fan base, I think. So, and you always get the extreme views there. But now, and answer the question, I don't think Miggy's down tools. He's come back from a pretty difficult Copa America as well, so he will be finding his fitness and his form as well. So we'll see what happens. Maybe he'll leave, maybe he won't, but I think he's got a part to play if he does stay, and I hope people lay off him a bit.
Now, regarding Miggy again, just getting back to that. Now, his form isn't great, as we know, but one person who plays in the same position to him and that is Jacob Murphy. Now, Murphy is putting himself in the shop window a lot better than what Miggy is right now. If a bid was to come in for Murphy and we were to accept that, then you'd probably accept Miggy stays on. And you'd think you'd probably get maybe a similar fee for both.
Yeah, Murphy's been good at the back end of last season. He was scoring and getting assists as well. He had a pretty good assist to, or goal contribution to a minute ratio last season as well. So he's been contributing well. Miggy's a bit older than him. Miggy's got a bit more experience in the team as well. But Murphy's just a good guy to have around. I think I've always thought that there's a player in Jacob Murphy, and I'm pleased that he's kind of found his role in the squad and in the team. But I do think we need a right winger. You know, I'm the same as everybody. I think we really need to upgrade that position. And then if we do that, then either Murphy or Miggy could happily be sold. It seems more likely Miggy might be sold. I don't think Murphy would want to leave, and he's definitely happy to accept that sort of squad player role. But as things stand, and he'll be starting the first game of the season. You know, I think he will anyway, even if we do sign a right-sided attacker before then, in the next few weeks, because you know Eddie likes to bed players in, and Murphy deserves it on his form so far. But there's been no links for him to be going anywhere. But I would have thought he'd be sort of in demand from lower half Premier League clubs. But the market hasn't even. We'll talk about it in a bit, but it's been really slow all over the place generally. So it's just going to take a while, I think, for things to kick in and the dominoes to start falling. And I think it's probably shaping up to be a busy last couple of weeks, which is usually the case, but might be even more so this time.
So here's a question for you then. Equal bids come in for Miggy and Murphy. You've got to offload one of the two. Who are you picking to go?
I'm Miggy. I would sell Miggy over Murphy now, because he's a bit older, and because I think like I said, I think he's probably at that point now where I'm not sure there's going to be a way back for him with the general. And I don't know if it is just a social media thing. He's a frustrating player. He can be very frustrating, and obviously he's got deficiency in using his right foot for anything other than standing on, and that's frustrating. And I think probably with Miggy, you know, there's talk that he wants to go back to Atlanta. They probably can't afford him at this point, but you'd think that he'd have offers from clubs on the continent or Saudi or maybe back in the USA if any of those teams can afford him. So I think he's probably more likely to have more suitors than Jacob Murphy as well. So if it was equal bids, but you know, you'd be looking at 20 million, I'd say, in the current market. At least 15 million with add-ons, or 20 million. I think you'd be wanting that to let either of them go, because they both could be valuable squad players.
Well, Murphy's still contracted for another 3 years, I think it is. He signed that stupidly long contract when he first signed. If an even bid came in, I'm on the same boat as you. I'd opt to lose Miggy over Murphy. I think Murphy offers a little bit more, plus he can cross the ball a lot better than what Miggy can. But now we're going to get talking about the exciting stuff. And this is the news that broke a few days ago from pretty much the ever-reliable David Ornstein, that we are in talks with Palace to sign 24-year-old, 16 times capped by England international Marc, and I got you to how to pronounce this later on, Marc Guehi.
Guéhi,
Marc Guehi. So what did you think of this news as it broke, and do you think he's a player that would improve us immediately?
Well, first of all, it was good that it came from David Ornstein. So he's a very trusted, reliable journalist who gets good information, and he doesn't tweet things or talk about things unless there's concrete news there. So that doesn't mean that that's going to work and that it's going to succeed and that we're going to sign him. But I think it was good that it came from David Ornstein. Everyone got excited about it. Obviously, it's a good link. He would improve the team definitely, and it would be very, very good to have a defensive him with Botman long term, with Hall and Livramento. Would have a lot of ex-Chelsea academy players in there. But he for England, he played on the left side. He's right-footed, but he played left-sided. So to begin with, he would maybe do that. With Fabian Schär, who hasn't done anything to deserve to be dropped himself over the last period of time, even though he's getting on a bit as well. So you'd have you'd have Dan Burn and Cher and Guéhi competing for those centre back positions until Botman comes back. You've got Lloyd Kelly there as well, obviously. But yeah, he would be a real a statement signing, really, because he's a good age. He's coming off a really good campaign with England in the Euros, where he wasn't even certain he was going to be starting, and he played every game but one when he was suspended. So his stock's really high. It probably means there's going to be a premium on his price, though. He's not going to come cheap. And I question whether he's worth double what someone like Malik Thior at Milan is, or other defenders we might be linked with on the continent, or who we might have an interest in. But absolutely, it would be a real coup, I think, if we could sign him. It's just whether we can or not, because there's rumours about other clubs being interested, and I think it's going to be a hard deal to get this done for the cost and the price it's going to cost, and also because I think there will be competition from other clubs, and I'm interested in who released that news to David Ornstein, whether it was Palace or agents, or whether it was even Newcastle, because there's advantages to all parties of releasing that. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, good, exciting, good to have a proper link, and we'll see what happens.
What do you make of the fee? Because obviously it's elevated because Chelsea have a 20% sell-on fee, and there's talk of it being £65 million plus, which would be a record fee for both clubs. Do you think he fits into that mould of a £60+ million defender? Bear in mind, I'm going to spool off some figures here. Back in 2019, Harry Maguire went to Man United for 80 million. John Stones went to City for 50 million back in 2016. Ben White to Arsenal for 50 million in 2020, and Ben Chilwell to Chelsea for 50 million in the same year as well. So those are the four most expensive English defenders of all time. And does Guéhi fall into that category to you?
In terms of his ability and his talent, I'm not sure. I haven't watched a massive amount of him apart from when he's played against us. He did have a really good season last season with Palace, so it's not just on the back of England. He was really good, and then that got him into the England team and the squad. So I think he's English. He's 24, so he's got his best years ahead of him. Like I said, his stock's high at the moment. He's performed well in the Premier League for at least 2 seasons now. So I think that this is about. He's got 2 years left on his contract. I think this is about standard. I think we're going to have to be looking at 60 million, like a 60 million guaranteed fee. I think with add-ons, or 55 million guaranteed, something like that, and then with add-ons. But I think if we can do it, I think it would be good. Like this is what you have to do now to get good top talent, especially English. You're paying that premium. And he's, like I said, he's coming off the back of a good tournament and good form in the Premier League. So Palace have already sold Elise for 50 million plus this summer. So they probably don't have to sell him for financial and for financial reasons. So that's probably strengthens their hand a bit as well. But I just think it's one, if we really want him, we're going to have to go and pay the money. But like I said, I don't know if there might be better value on the continent or from overseas, but we know that Eddie Howe likes English players, and he likes having that core of British players as well. He passes the character test, which is important, and he knows that he's Premier League proven. So I think 60, 65, 70 million, something like that, is probably about what you would expect to pay for someone like him at this point of his career.
I mean, we all knew that the club were going to be after a centre-back, but I don't think anybody expected it to be a homegrown Premier League England international. I think everyone, like you mentioned, be on the continent, just like we're looking at that AC defender, Malik Thior. There's a few other names that were bantered around. But as you touched on before, you don't think he's worth twice as much as Thior. Do you reckon this could potentially be a smokescreen to then go back to AC Milan?
That's what I was thinking about who's leaked this, because it's kind of in our advantage if AC Milan, because Milan have signed someone already, a centre back, or they're about to sign someone, so they probably need to sell Thior now, or they need to get some money in, and they've already got a defender. I think they're probably. It seems like there's been really concrete interest from us and discussions going on for quite a while. So they maybe expected that we'd be able to go in and pay the money. Maybe they'll sell him for a bit cheaper or more towards what we wanted to pay initially, because they know that we've got this bid in now for Guéhi. But it's the English premium thing, isn't it? Like, Thor's played for Germany, he's got caps for Germany and AC Milan. He's not Premier League proven though, so that, and he's a slightly different profile as well. He's more of like a dominant, big, strong centre back. Guéhi is more quick, and he's heading and winning headers is not the best part of his game, but he's really good ball player and he's quick. So they're kind of slightly different profiles as well. So yeah, like I said, I think it's kind of what you expect to pay now, and it will be interesting to see what happens. We don't know. The club have apparently been looking at players that haven't even come to the media's attention at all yet. Yeah. So, and it does feel a bit like with Guéhi, it feels a bit like a bit of an un-Newcastle United thing to do. Going and bidding big for somebody on the back of a good tournament, and we don't know how long we've been scouting him for, how long we've held an interest for. But it isn't what we've been doing since the takeover up to now. We've been doing more longer term scouting and then picking players up sort of from the continent or who are not with a current high profile. So we've been buying sort of younger up and coming players, and I know Guéhi is young, so he kind of fits that criteria as well. But maybe it's a sign that the club are looking at kicking into this next phase now that Amanda Staveley and Murdad are gone, and maybe the Saudis are taking a bit more control, and we've got the sporting director and things. So maybe it's going to be a statement of intent. We can go and get the best players from other clubs that are around us in the table or who are not too far away from us last season. You strengthen yourself, you weaken in potential rivals in the league as well. Palace were great at the back end of last season. So yeah, very interesting to see what happens with it.
Yeah, and by all accounts as well, the player is up for the move. He's keen. He likes the idea of the project and everything else. Plus, he also shares the same agent as Gordon, Miley, Lascelles, and Wilson. So there's obviously some type of connection there. Plus, he seems to be good mates with Wilson from with Gordon from the England camp. But we'll see what happens on that one. That is a story that is ever going to be unfolding, and hopefully one day he will be holding that scarf above his head at the Gallagher end or showing off the East Ham, whichever. But yeah, it'd be a sign, and we would both welcome at the club. Now we're going to move on to the top end of the pitch, and William Osula. This is another name that came pretty much out of nowhere, and I reckon this type of move for a youngster who literally turned 21 today, so happy birthday to him. Move that came out of nowhere, and I think the move for this type of player is mainly based off the fact that Wilson's injured and we can't shift him off. Would you maybe go with that idea?
Yeah, Wilson, he's injured again. I know you talked about this last week when the podcast you did, but it's just frustrating. You can't keep fit, like that's always been the issue with him. When he does get fit and when he gets a run of games, he's absolutely lethal, and he's more than capable of playing in the Premier League, and he's a good rotation option with Isak to give Isak a break, but his body can't be relied on. So he's got 1 year left of his contract. He's 32 now. So this this young guy from Sheffield United, like you said, it came a little bit out of the blue. He does have Premier League experience, albeit in one of the worst teams the Premier League's seen, probably ever seen. The Sheffield United were absolutely abysmal last season. It makes sense in terms of getting a third choice striker who really will probably be more like second choice. Whether he's ready to be second, third choice for a club who've got European ambitions, who knows? He seems to have a lot of the attributes and the raw ingredients you need to be a really good striker, and he certainly looks good. Like if you watch him, his style looks really good, and he's explosive, and he can shoot off both feet, and he's quick, and he's big and strong. So he looks like a real number 9. He's only had he's had the equivalent of less than 9 full senior games in the Premier League. So. And he didn't score any goals. I think he made 28 appearances in total, but a lot of it was off the bench. But his record in youth football is outstanding. He's got like 1 and 2. So he's got two goals to every game record in youth football, and he had quite a good loan spell at Derby as well. So it just seems one that we can develop him hopefully, and get Eddie and get the coaches to get hold of him, and like it just makes sense. 10 million, 15 million is not a lot of money these days in football, so it makes sense, and it's pretty low risk, and we'll probably be able to sell him on even if he scores just 3 or 4 goals for us because he plays for Newcastle. We'll probably be able to sell him on to someone else for that kind of money in a few years if we don't think he's going to make it.
Yeah, so this fee apparently has been agreed. As you mentioned, it's 10 million, rising to 15, depending on performance-related bonuses, that sort of thing. A medical is expected soon. Chances are he's probably out now getting pissed on his 21st birthday. So hopefully they don't do a blood alcohol test on him, because that's not going to come back very good. You mentioned before that you see him as coming in number 3, but because of Wilson's injury record, you reckon he'll basically be our number 2 striker for the majority of the season. And it's the kind of project that I'd imagine Eddie would relish as well.
Yeah, well, that's what Eddie does. He develops players, and we've identified that this player has got a lot of the attributes that we want in a striker. We've talked before about how difficult it is to sign when you've only got one number 9 striker position that you play with these days. So it's really hard to get second choice or third choice strikers for that position, because players who are good enough to do it probably want to be starting somewhere, So like we were linked with people like Jonathan David, but it's just always going to be a long shot to get a player like that when you've got Isak, who's basically one of the best strikers in the world. Let's be fair, he's going to be starting every game, and hopefully he stays fit. But we don't really want to be in a position where we're relying on William Osula to be starting. We don't want him to be starting 10 Premier League games plus. That's going to be a problem, and probably we just don't know if he's going to have what it takes to actually be able to do that. So I thought we might get someone on loan, like some sort of like, I know everyone laughs at Weghorst, but someone like that on loan who's got a different profile. I thought we might do something like that. That's why I think the links with Calvert-Lewin made sense as well, if he was going to be interested, to come in and play.
Yeah, you were a fan of that move, weren't you?
Yeah, but we'll see what happens with this young lad. It's an exciting signing, I think. Someone who seems to have bags and bags of potential, and it's just more evidence that the club are doing the scouting, doing the homework on players. We've got Paul Mitchell in now, who's absolutely got a good eye for players. So Sheffield United fans have been a bit mixed on it. Some of them think he's got massive potential. They pretty much all seem to think they need the money, so take the money. But some of them say that his finishing's not great and he needs refinement. But like you said, that's what Eddie can do. So we'll see what happens when he gets his hands on him. And all he'll have to do is score a couple of goals, and he's repaid that transfer fee straight away, because like I said, we'll be able to sell him if we don't want him in a few years.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on before about recruitment and everything again for players coming through. Now, obviously, we don't have a player good enough in the academy or coming through the youth ranks to take that third striker position role. But there's been an influx of academy players coming through, with probably the most exciting one being Rory Finnan. I think that's how it's pronounced. The 16-year-old from Blackburn, who are taking us to a tribunal to try and get a fee for the lad. But for those who don't know, this lad, he's only just turned 16, I think it is. He made his competitive first-team debut at the age of 15 in an FA Cup game for Blackburn. He's current captain of the under-17s, and he's featured numerous times for the under-21s for the Republic of Ireland too. Now, in terms of picking or cherry-picking the best talent from the continent or even just the UK, his name's surely got to be up there, you'd imagine.
Yeah, this is one that we'd heard of him anyway. He was on the bench against us when we played Blackburn in the Cup. He's only made the one senior appearance, but like I said, he's just turned 16. He's a defensive midfielder, left-footed, and he's coming from the club where Adam Wharton, who's at Palace now, who got in the England squad, he was at Blackburn as well. So they've obviously got a good scouting network to be able to pick these players up. It's really encouraging. It's one of the best things since the takeover to see us going and cherry picking the best players from other academies. Like even in that first friendly in Japan, there was Heffernan, who we signed from Milan, who's an Irish lad. Yeah. There was Sanusi, who came from, I think it was Birmingham's academy, and then Alfie Harrison came from Man City. So, like the game we saw in Melbourne, the second game, there was just a bunch of kids there that were never going to make it. That half of them were released not long after that. So to have these players coming on and seeing, real talent in the academy, and this is what you've got to do. You've got to maximize your academy. Look at what Chelsea do in Man City now, selling academy players for 20 million plus, sometimes who've never made an appearance for them. So this is another cheat code for FFP. How to get around that is by having a good academy. It's going to take time, but we've already seen the emergence of Lewis Miley, but it's good to have players from other academies as well, not just local homegrown players, because you can either they impact your first team, and you can sell them and make quite a lot of money from them. So it's what you've got to do, and it looks like that's been kicked into overdrive a bit. There was a couple of others I think we signed, wasn't there, the other day as well as Rory Finland. Yeah. So no, like the academy has been terrible for far too long. Like you look at the results even from last season, they were shit. Like the lost pretty badly most weeks. So this is just a real big investment that the club have made since the takeover, and it's what you've got to do, and it's really exciting to see.
Well, the big thing for me about this Rory fella is, didn't Spurs just pay like 35 million for Archie Gray from Leeds? And he's only a year older. But he has played a lot more senior games. But if he's 40 million and he's, 17 years old, what's this lad going to be worth in 5-10 years or so? Same with Lewis Miley, Sanusi, Harrison, everything like that. So we are getting the right players in. It's just going to take that bit of time to get them bedded in, get them up to scratch, get them up to Premier League level. Not all of them will make it, but like you said, we will then be able to sell those players on and make a handsome profit off it, and then fund the first team and keep the players that we want.
Yeah, and it goes back to the point about Eddie Howe as well. This is one of the reasons why he's so important to Newcastle, and why I think we really want to do everything we can to keep Eddie Howe for as long as possible, because the best thing that he does is the coaching on the grass, the developing of players. He turned Murphy and Lascelles and everybody into Champions League players who were with us in the Championship. So there's absolutely no doubt that he's the best manager and the best coach to develop these players. The under-21s coach left, didn't he? Ben Dawson. Yeah, he went to Leicester, so there's a vacancy there as well. So, and we've got Paul Mitchell. So we've got the recruitment sort of network structure in place now to get someone really good for that job as well. And then they're going to play a really important role in developing these players. There's a pathway to the first team as well. Like they'll have seen that from Lewis Miley. If you're good enough, you're old enough. And I think we might end up seeing someone like Sanusi or a bit this season, or Alfie Harrison seems to be knocking on the door a bit as well. Because if you're 18 and if you're super talented, you're probably good enough to play in the Premier League, just like Lewis Miley proved last season. So there is the pathway there as well. It's really exciting. It's really exciting. There's nothing better than seeing homegrown players, young players come in, and they pick value up, and they're just exciting to watch as well. It's really good, and you kind of balance that with the experience. People like Shah and Dan Burn and Joe Linton now and Bruno. This is experienced players as well. So you balance that out, and you hope that you get a really good mix, and we seem to be on the right track to doing that.
Yeah, the future is looking bright for the club for a change, especially at the youth level, which is good to see. Hopefully a lot of those players do come through, and we don't have to fork out 50, 60, 70 million for the equivalent player in a good number of years' time. They could save us a small fortune and also make us a small fortune as well. We'll see how it goes with those. But yeah, very exciting times ahead. But Jack, thank you very much for jumping on this afternoon.
No worries. Good to chat. And like I said, yeah, we'll be back around Thursday, I think, with George. So looking forward to that one. And let's see. Let's hope we get some transfer breakthrough news by then as well. We can have a chat with George about that.
Absolutely fantastic. So again, like the channel, subscribe if you don't already, hit that notification bell, and give us a follow and like on all the usual social media channels too. Thanks very much for watching, and we will see you on the next one. Cheers, Jack.
Cheers, Craigie. See ya.